All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the 611. It's your boy Ryan Howard here with my man Young James.
Yes, sir.
And so today, Young James,
Yes.
we've got some special breed in here today. We got some the room, the style in the room got
It's elevated.
a little bit. Yes, it got a little bit higher.
I see you rocking your Gucci.
I mean, I had to step it up today
I
because
had my helmet. I don't want to embarrass myself.
We had to step it up today. We had to come correct with the fashion sense today. We got my man, an entrepreneur, right? Also the co-creator, co-founder of Boardroom with Kevin Durant, part of 35 Ventures.
Yes.
Can we
I
please?
want to be part of 35 Ventures.
Well, I mean, hey, here's our chance. We're gonna put him on the spot today.
We're gonna ask.
Yo, we got our man Rich Kleiman in the building. Welcome, sir.
Thank you,
Welcome.
fellas. I was hoping you guys also said lifelong Met fan.
I knew that was coming.
You know what? I
knew.
missed that in the notes.
No, I deleted it when Jake put it in there.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah.
Just like you deleted our lead at the end of 2 years in a row.
Hey, look, we were doing our job. You know,
I can't even believe I'm talking to
it's like being a Knicks fan in a sense. It's something about those colors. It's that orangey bluey thing.
All right,
I
let's
don't
move
know.
on, man. Move on.
My bad. You brought it up though.
You're right. My bad.
You brought it
I'm
up.
salty still, though. I tell you guys
What?
every time I see you.
You know how long that's been?
I know, bro. But when you're suffering, you suffer. That's what happens.
That is true because that suffering hasn't ended. You had a chance in 15 though.
Yeah,
you had
that's
a
true.
really legit chance.
That's true.
In 15.
But the issue isn't with us.
Well,
It's not with us.
Right, go take it out on them.
Yeah.
nah, but in a lot of ways, you guys even right now, right? We're in a battle. We're struggling. We're battling Phillies again, but I
Yeah.
somehow still see the two of you.
And that has nothing to do with the fact that we're sitting here today. So, Rich, you've created a monster. You and Katie with Boardroom, 35 Ventures, home to over 100 early stage investments in sports, business, and entertainment industries. How did that come about? Like, what sparked it? There's always a niche, there's a gap, and you saw it and you filled it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, both Kevin and I had met each other with this like lifelong of experiences that kind of shaped what we were going to do together. I had served these different roles, all within the sports and entertainment world or adjacent in some ways, but really like so many different roles. Like I always say that I like to call myself at this point like a glorified journeyman. You know, like I went from being the 11th, 12th man to being the 7th, 8th man to winning 6th man of the year to getting the starting 5. Maybe I made an all-star game. And then, you know, in my mind, I feel like now I'm like an all NBA guy, right? And what I was able to do was meet somebody along the way who was the best at what he did. And his trust in me and his belief in us forming a business together gave me this incredible tailwind. So at that point, I had the confidence to say, wait, hold up. Like, I actually do know what I'm supposed to do now. Like, I have done all of these different things and I've gained so many different experiences that I feel like there's this world that I've operated in where there's so much opportunity. And a lot of it was sparked by being in the Bay with Kevin, obviously, and meeting such incredible founders and truly being at a place in time where the world was changing. But even bigger than that, it was this idea that all of these worlds were intersected, where like there was elements of business and fashion and sport and real estate and all of these worlds where if you knew that like certain people in all those different worlds made sense in one room. And that was really like the thesis behind Boardroom. And in a lot of ways, the like inspiration behind everything that we did, which was that like, as long as we're rooted in sport in some ways, rooted in this world and that we're partners, that like our perspectives will allow us to have a point of view on so many different things. And we just kept that pocket. Like, let's do everything in this pocket and then storytell around it at the same time, right? Let's also be a voice around what we're seeing. And I think that gave us a bit of a differentiator as we started to build out our media business.
Now, give me a little bit more kind of into that origin story. Like it was as you started out like with Rock Nation, everything. How did you even meet KD?
Everything I've done has this like through line. Like there's not one role that I've ever done in work that didn't ultimately lead to the next one. Like nothing was done in a vacuum. And I really went from like being a bookie, first of all, like when I was really young and had no direction, which gave me some sense of like being an entrepreneur, as crazy as that sounds. I then like got this opportunity to be a music supervisor on a show through a friend of mine. And I was like, if there's a budget and I can keep what's left of the budget, well, I have an idea. Let me build up this whole database of unsigned artists. That just made sense to me, right? Like, so I did that. But in doing that, I met all these unsigned artists. So then they were like, we need managers. And I started managing some of these artists. That led to me meeting somebody who was like a bit more established in the music industry. And that sparked building a record label. So it was like one thing after another. So by the time I met Jay-Z and had a chance to work on Fade to Black, that was my entryway into working at Rock Nation. So now I'm in a bit more of a corporate environment. And once I did that, I was managing a handful of artists, but sports was always, I would say, my passion. So like this idea of managing talent, I was like, well, why can't I manage athletes then? And as soon as I kind of like expressed some interest in doing that, Jay was like, we're about to start an agency at Rock Nation. So I was able to like transition pretty smoothly into sports. But one thing I got from one of the artists I worked with was this kid Wale from DC.
Love Wale.
He grew up in the same part of town as Kevin, right? Or all throughout Maryland. And he was like, yo, you should meet KD. And as soon as I met Kevin, we just bonded on basketball. So by the time we got into building a sports agency, I had built up this equity with him and this relationship with him where he could talk hoop. And I'm sure you guys understand, like nobody that you're going to work with, especially when you were playing, was going to be in your orbit if they didn't understand baseball, like really could talk baseball with you. So the fact that Kevin and I had really talked basketball for 5 years before I said, look, let's like sit in a room and talk about business. Well, he already trusted like my instinct. Like you don't want to talk to someone that has no idea the world you're in. So that allowed me like just a seat at the table. And I think it was like the allure of Jay and this new thing that was starting and the trust that him and I had. That really allowed Kevin to take the leap of faith because we were a brand new sports agency. But he was at a time in his life where he was looking for change and it's all timing. So we lined up and, you know, I think once we started working together, you need someone within that company, right? Like I'm sure you guys had agents and there was always someone in that company that you were like, I'm calling that person whenever I need anything.
Right.
And I had that role in his life early on. So then we continued to build this trust for us to kind of explore and try new things.
So that's a very important part because in entertainment and in sports, we got filters for the filters before you get to the top.
Right.
How do you build that equity? Like we can see when somebody wants something from us, and we can almost see when it's genuine, but it's so tricky because someone always wants something from us. How do you build that equity, you know, from the ground up and then going forward? Obviously, your name speaks for itself now. You hear Rich and it's like, oh, we good. But it took time to stay clean, to do the right things, to be in the right rooms. How does that happen?
I realized that like while I didn't have this resume or these set of credentials or this like education background to point to growing up, that the one thing that I could continuously do was form real connection and real relationships. And growing up in New York, you know, that's just like, if you can't take advantage of that, then it's not for you. You're not built for it. So I took advantage of the access that wasn't even given to me. It was just in front of me, right? So I found myself in the rooms I wanted to be in. And I also took my time in those rooms. You know, I think the one thing that happens with athletes especially is that the relationship, even if you try to lead with the right intention, always feels transactional. It always does.
For sure.
And in the music business, it was always different because if you signed an artist that had no fan base or had no album out, everything you were doing at that point was building towards the ability to sell show tickets, to sell albums. So you had to do things that weren't for money in the beginning. You had to build a fan base. You had to build a community. You had to build a brand for yourself. And that wasn't transactional. That was just crafting a brand. That was just like partnering with somebody, being there for them, showing up all the time, no matter how big or small the thing was that they needed you for. And then all of a sudden, when the opportunity was there to transact on something, you had built up a bit of a relationship and a trust. So for me, as soon as I moved into sports, like the mentality was that everything Kevin was doing, he would look at me like, man, I got this Sprint commercial. I'm hot. I don't want to do this Sprint commercial. Right. And I'd be like, why are you doing it? And he'd look at me like, what you mean? I have to do it. I'm like, you don't have to do it. And it was just like so simple, but it was so eye-opening because for me, I was sitting there thinking like, this is simple math. Like, I see what you're making on court. I see what you're making from Nike. You don't need this. Why are you doing this?
You don't need this.
Right. You don't need
so that was also, I think, at this time where the sports world was starting to mirror the blueprint a bit in music, which was that like, okay, you're the economy. You're at the center of this. So if you're at the center of this, why is somebody telling you you've got to do this Sprint commercial? I remember that Sprint commercial we were at, they had Kevin as like a 9-foot giant talking to some kid in a treehouse. And I'm thinking like, this doesn't even make sense. That's not who you are.
Right.
But he just was like, I'm supposed to show up. Here's the script. I'm supposed to do the spot. And it was like those things over and over again. And then also like I realized, especially working with talent, is like there was nothing that was going to be too small for me in the beginning. Right? If I'm going to show up when we're negotiating a big deal, or I'm going to show up when you have a big game on national TV, I better show up when you're handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving in Oklahoma City too, because I want to show you that I'm in this with you. And I think, you got to just do that over and over and over again, right? Like if I had to think about doing some of those things now in my life, I wouldn't even be able to do it. I wouldn't have the energy to do it, but you have to do it. It's like when you have little kids, you love having little kids. And then after your kids are little, you say things like, man, I wish my kids were little again, but you don't really wish they were little again. You don't really want to deal with all that again. Right. So it's the same thing. It's like, I had to do all these things along the way because I just, like I said, I was, in my opinion, I had to like be a journey. I had to serve all these roles. There were rooms I was in earlier in my career where I was thinking to myself like, man, why am I even saying this? That ain't even me. But it was because I wasn't all the way comfortable yet in that room. But then as I got older and more accomplished, and I was like, okay, I can be in the same room and show people who I am now at this point in my career. But that's just from doing the work and watching.
Well, let's jump into the current status of 35 Ventures and Boardroom from where it was into what it is today. How do you guys make decisions on what and who you want to get involved with? And personally, I've always been a little envious of the NBA. It's like they're always out front. They're always the first to do something, and baseball is last. It's just what it is. And whether it's the rules of the game, fashion, baseball is always last. But for Boardroom, and it's like in 35 Ventures, because the NBA is player first, it seems like it's easier to go out and do these things. But it's never easy. We know that.
Yeah.
How do you make a decision, which is the question, what to get involved with and who to get involved with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's shifted over time. I look at like these like eras that we've operated in. So like our kind of desire on what we want to do has changed, but their through line has always been like, we're crafting this overall business. Like and maybe we've sacrificed money at certain times because of the long game of trying to like craft this story around what it is that we're building. And I think when we first got to the Bay, which was right around the time that Kevin and I went on our own, there was this just unbelievable amount of access. And I did have people at that time, like one of the first things that I did when we got to the Bay was Steve Stout set up a dinner for Kevin's birthday at Ben Horowitz's house from Andreessen Horowitz. And he was like, trust me, you want this dinner. Like, I don't care if Kevin says he doesn't want to do something for his birthday. Trust me, you want this dinner. So we went to this dinner, and Ben and Steve brought out everybody, the who's who of Silicon Valley, and all the Warriors came. And I realized at that time, like, the Warriors are the hottest commodity right now in this town where the world is changing, where these unicorns are being built. So for me, like, when I was in the room, it was like, all right, let me see who I can connect with. Let me see who's going to give me real time of day, being cognizant of the fact that everyone wanted to be around KD, but let me try to build real relationships so this doesn't rely on Kevin to have to see all of these things through. And then as soon as I built those relationships, we started to take meetings with all these people and started getting access to deals. And at that point, the people we work with were people that I had good filters from. So I was getting great deal flow from great other like institutions or other private equity or VCs. And I would go through that, meet with a founder. And if the founder connected with us on a certain level, valued who we were, weren't doing it just to have Kevin's name in a press release. Once we got in that deal, I wanted to then over deliver for that founder, show them that we were truly a strategic investor. That founder would introduce us to other people. And then we built this incredible deal flow. And at that point, it was like simple. I can't invest in everything. I'm not going to understand everything. And we don't have the most money in the room to invest. So whatever money we put in, it's got to be because they value our money, not just the name, and they value the partnership. And then let me kind of get under the hood, learn these businesses, be around great people, great energy, and know that all of that would then bring this like tailwind of opportunity to us. So that was when we were in the Bay. When we came to New York, it was like, all right, we can no longer try to keep up and invest in all these startups. The world was shifting. Like the startup world was saturated. There was less and less of these unicorns.
I didn't want to overpriced.
Exactly. And I didn't want to spray and pray anymore to that, you know, in that regard. So now it was like, all right, how do we put more money into less deals that are more aligned with who we are? So in the beginning, it was like, yeah, there were certain deals that were aligned with us strategically. If we invested in Postmates early, Postmates saw the value in Kevin, and the Bay was where they were based out of. So we were able to be more public facing. But there were certain companies we invested in that it made no sense for us to be public facing. So it was just more about me giving strategy and us bringing them in certain rooms. When we got to New York, it was like, all right, let's lean in on the media side and the storytelling a bit. And let's also invest in less deals, put more money into it, and see how that can be even more closely aligned with what we do. And then today, because Boardroom has become such like the central part of our business, like we look at things that are clearly on brand with us. So we'll invest in sports properties or invest in more consumer brands and private equity deals that are later stage that our whole platform can lend value to.
Can you tell us a little bit more about now the partnership with Boardroom and MLB? How does that look? How does that shape up? What can we expect from that partnership?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of, if not the most exciting partnership that we've done. And it's not just because I'm sitting with the two of you in MLB offices. Even though it would be silly if I had said anything different sitting with the two of you in MLB offices. But the truth is that it felt like a bit of a acknowledgement, right? So like you said, the NBA, because Kevin is my partner, is very much rooted in our whole brand. NBA culture is clearly the most influential, I would say, of all sports.
No doubt.
Throughout culture in general.
Easy.
Yeah.
So for a brand like the MLB to acknowledge like, okay, we see the value in Boardroom and we see the value in their storytelling and their amplification and in the moments and experiences they create. And they value the idea that that's going to be important to the growth of MLB over the next 5, 10, 20 years. And to your point about players like yourself saying, man, the NBA is getting all this stuff first. Like the NBA is the one that they're talking about. Well, then how do we help kind of bridge that gap to the league? And the fact that they valued that and saw that was exciting for us. And I think that like we also then benefited from the fact that it wasn't like a mystery why MLB was thinking that, because things were changing already in the league, right? The star power was exploding. The kind of creativity that the league was showing and creating these moments, right? Like creating these things. And even the way All-Star Game tracks and how that's rated as opposed to some of these other league All-Star games. I felt like there was all these parts there that needed the dots connected a bit. And I would say that's probably our special sauce, is like seeing all these dope things and being able to tell a story around it and connect the dots and amplify it.
What, in your opinion, are the elements of the culture of baseball? Because there's a lot of culture, so many countries, it's so diverse. Even with the Latin American countries on the outside, they're all the same, right? But when you're in the clubhouse, a Venezuelan, Dominican, Cuban, a guy from Mexico, they're completely different. And they, you know, amongst themselves, they make sure they know it. If something happens in the clubhouse, how can you bring that forward, the culture of baseball that the general public, they don't see? Because it's dope. You know, we started getting, you know, outfit, camera like the NBA does when you walk in there, what you rocking. You don't see that in baseball. It's come from basketball, but there is a culture that people want to explore, and you can actually bring a light to that.
Yeah. Well, I think like somehow the narrative around the game got off the rails a bit, right? Like, and I think the league reacted to that, right? Shortening the game clearly had a benefit. And then not only shortening the game, but being able to tell the story around the fact that the game was short and you should tune in. And I think it started to remind people, the more and more baseball was talked about in the zeitgeist, that this is like America's pastime, right? And it does consist of people from all over the world, truly. And some of the biggest stars, the biggest star in baseball is not from America.
Correct.
And the fact that like the league realized that, created these things to allow stories to be told, the focus go back onto players. And then a lot of these young players also being part of a generation, like you said, that are watching this going, wait, hold up. Like, I have all these tools in front of me. Like, I listen to the same music. I wear the same clothes. I have the same like experiences from childhood growing up. It's the same competition. And then you have certain things that have played to the favor of the league clearly, right? Like big stars in the big markets. But I think just overall, as the players started to lean in on the idea that like, all right, if the league's giving us more, let's give them more. Let's go out there and show a bit of who we are. And then the story starts to change, right? And the narrative starts to change. And like so much of it is dictated by the narrative, because at the end of the day, the experience in a ballpark is still probably the best of any sport, right? Like being able to sit and have your kids there or your parents there, whoever you are, you can go to the ballpark and do that. It just needed to have a shift in how the story was being told. And I think like all these things combined, plus the star power, plus the moments that they've tried to create throughout the calendar, going to London, going to Japan, all of a sudden sports media is covered at such like an insane like capacity that like you couldn't help but see the things that were changing. And then even like guys like you, right? Like one generation removed from this generation staying close to the game. That's very important too. You see in basketball, for better or worse, some of them are on TV just knocking the younger generation, but they're still all around the game.
Right.
So this community and the fraternity of the league has clearly grown. And I think it's just like cyclical and people are paying attention to it now.
Shout out to the Commissioner's Ambassador Program.
That's it.
Keeping us connected and tight. The appetite for people to be entertained and the money that they're willing to spend for that entertainment. How much has it grown and how much has it shifted to what the fans are demanding?
Well, it's grown exponentially, clearly, because, you know, there is no kind of barrier for entry. So if you want to talk about sports or cover sports, like, you know, anyone and everyone can do it.
Platforms have changed that.
So fans have been inundated with it. And I think like the amount of long form storytelling that's gone on streaming services and the docs and all of these different events and the emergence of new sports that have entered into the conversation, like an F1 or even like an even more innovative sport that happens, even things that don't get the kind of like television ratings are still being spoken about, right? If you're a new emerging league, people know it and talk about it. The business of sport has become so compelling to people. I think the tricky thing is, just like in coverage in anything, right? Politics, any part of our world, is like really deciphering around like what's real and what's really worth hearing, right? So like, for instance, Kevin's grown up in a generation where social media has been so present in everything that he's done that the decisions he's made, whether you liked them or not, has like shaped this narrative around him and his legacy in some ways. Whereas I'm not quite sure 25, 30 years ago, people would even have the gall to be like knocking somebody with his body of work's legacy.
Right.
But you can now, because you've got people getting on TV saying this is the worst decision. He's not a leader. He's never been the bus driver. So now all of a sudden you're a young person and you're like, damn, like KD ain't really all that.
Yeah.
But he's about to pass Michael Jordan in all-time scoring this year. And that I think has been a bit disappointing, especially as it relates to basketball, right? I think more so than any other sport. And I think sometimes sports coverage in general gets like unfairly criticized when it's really the NBA. Like it's the NBA coverage is so toxic. But I think as it relates to the rest of the sports, the trickle down effect is probably a good thing because there's just so many mediums for coverage now. But now it's on these networks to be like, all right, let's dive a little deeper into the real conversation. And I'm hoping that, especially as it relates to the NBA, that with like Amazon and NBC getting the NBA rights now, you see people like Melo and T-Mac on, they're not going to talk that way about young players.
For sure.
Right.
right? Like they're just not going to. So hopefully that starts to create like a new trend a bit in how they cover it, because I think it's unfortunate to have that be the top of the conversation when that's not really the nature of why we all fell in love with sports.
Right. Well, I want to talk about women's sports. Now you got two girl dads here.
All day.
Three.
Yeah.
Three.
Oh, we got three. Oh,
There
this
you
is
go.
perfect. This is perfect. So, want to talk about the support that you guys have been throwing behind women's sports, investing in teams. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, our kind of vision around investing in women's sports, which probably started 5-6 years ago, was really based around seeing it as an incredible opportunity from a business perspective and also being a fan of the sport. Kevin is well-documented supporter of the WNBA for 18, 20 years. You speak to the women of the league, they'll be like, nah, Kevin has been around before anyone else was coming around because they feel like they have to. Like he really has. And I remember about 6 years ago, we went to the Nationals in Chicago during the summer on a Nike tour. And I was walking around and it was like the excitement and skill level and the swag of these young girls was incredible. And the truth was that a lot of these business models were broken, but the actual talent, the sport, the communities around the sport were real. They were just almost like afterthoughts. They were broken business models, right? Like women's soccer, for instance, we have the greatest women in the world that play here. And we have a professional sports league. And when the U.S. women nationals go and play in these exhibition games, they can have 75,000 people in a stadium.
Right.
Well, then something's not adding up, right? Like it's not working. And in the WNBA, it was the same thing. I actually really tried to get on the ownership group of the Liberty like 8 years ago, but we weren't even allowed because Kevin was playing in the league and it was just like, clearly we had the right intention, but it wasn't structured in a way that we could actually do it. But it all felt just like a miss. So for us, it was like, this is an incredible business opportunity. This is an incredible like opportunity to invest in the best in the world at what they do in an entire medium that is clearly like driving culture as a whole. Well, like who's not paying attention to this is kind of how we felt in the beginning. So we really just did what we thought was the right thing from a business perspective. It goes without saying that like we also believed in women sports as a asset class because these women weren't being invested in and the model was broken. But, you know, I think what's happened over the last 6-7 years and the awareness and the attention it's been paid has obviously helped our investments. But most of all, it's like driven what was so obvious, which was this like incredibly untapped and unfortunate scenario where women wanted the same abilities to compete at the highest level. And I think that's been the most exciting thing to watch. Like, obviously, there's still things that have to be changed, and the WNBA is going to go through their CBA. But the fact is like the attention and the awareness has given this platform the ability to like compete. And that's all athletes want to do is compete at the highest level. And when you see women's softball getting invested in and the MLB being aware of it. So I think just being able to be a part of that has been exciting, but it's also like long overdue.
Rich, here at the 611.
Yes, sir.
We have a segment known as the Banana Boat Ritual segment.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to give it to you two ways.
Yes, sir.
Being a Mets fan, when the Mets get into the playoffs, and from the time you're a little kid maybe to now, is there a superstition or a ritual that you perform daily during their 5 games before they're eliminated that you can tell us about? And second,
low blow.
On a day-to-day basis, when you wake up, is there something about your day that has to happen, whether it's in the morning, at night, you have a big deal coming up to get yourself ready to get things going?
So a few things. First of all, I believe we knocked you guys out of the playoffs last year.
Oh,
right?
Got him.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Touche.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche.
Congratulations, Rich.
Thank
Small
you.
wins.
Yes.
Small wins.
So I used to have the craziest superstitions watching Met games and Giant games and Knick games as a kid. Like during the Knick game when I wanted to someone on the other team to miss a free throw, I would do this like thing with my hand, like really crazy. And because it worked 1 or 2 times, I would use it so infrequently because I knew it clearly couldn't work all the time.
Right.
And if I was like in the other room and the Knicks went on a run or something happened, I wouldn't leave. I used to tell my mother, like, do not move a single limb, like stand right there. And I really stood on it. Like I was sick over it. I've gotten rid of that a bit. I will say though, in my life now though, from a ritual standpoint, it's not necessarily, well, I have weird things in general that I still do. Like I won't walk on an airplane. I always walk left foot first. That's just like my own like weird OCD superstitions. But I do have like a way that I prepare physically in my mind where it's like where you would prepare for a game, like the way that I eat, how comfortable I want to be in terms of what I'm going to wear that day, like how I'll schedule the rest of my day. And it's not even that I can't like function if everything's 1 hour after the other, but there's certain days where I just feel the need to have like a little bit of mental space in between certain things. And there's some days that I know I operate better if I'm going like 1 hour after the next. And I just kind of have to like compute that the day before, and then I like prepare accordingly. And there's certain days where I'm just like, all right, cool. I need to be like, if I have something I have to do at 12 or 1, I might be like, all right, you know what? If it's uptown, I'm going to need to work from my house for the next 2 or 3 hours, take calls from here, stay in this mindset, and then go into this meeting. And then some days I don't mind like moving up and down in the city. But like before sporting events now, I don't really have much of a superstition.
You've grown out of what you're saying.
Yeah, I've grown out of it.
you might want to get one back for the postseason.
It's like you just don't like. I care, but I mean, like I would say the Giants and Mets, I'm still pretty nuts about. Basketball, it's just like it's so messed up now because I was like a lifelong Knicks fan. I wanted KD to go to the Knicks. He chose the Nets, so I had to like get on board with the Nets. Then I got into the Nets. Then he left. And the Knicks got hot, and everyone's a Knicks fan. I'm sitting here looking at Knicks fans like, man, you don't know what you've been through, man. You're a Knicks fan, so it's just easier to hate a little bit.
So speak on that for a second. You know, like to collect some things, as we were talking about a little bit earlier. So you say you had some nice Knicks paraphernalia. What is your favorite piece?
Probably John Starks game used jersey.
Oh wow. Some Ewings. You got them old school Ewings.
Yeah.
Got them Ewings.
Deflated.
Were you rocking the Ewings? That's the question.
I was rocking Air Revolutions, which is what Mark Jackson wore when he won Rookie of the Year, second year All-Star. But like the Knicks stuff is like I have a cool collection of all of KD's stuff. Like we've created this like storage facility of all of the stuff throughout his career. But for me, like if you look at the cards that I hold on to, it's probably so low in value compared to what it means to me. So I have every single card of every Knick from the 90s and late 80s all the way up to like 2000, 2001. I have 2 signed game-worn St. John's jerseys from Chris Mullin and Mark Jackson.
Wow.
Mullin was my guy. I'm a Warrior through and through.
Oh, yeah.
So I love when KD was out
TMC.
there for sure. TMC days, get bounced in the first round. We didn't have a big man, so but Mullins was a cold piece.
Cold. And I got the jerseys, and then I was able to go get the 2 of them to sign them. And then I have like a Darryl Strawberry. I have like all this Darryl Strawberry stuff from the 80s. I have something I got when I was a kid that I went to like a card show, and I have brought this with me everywhere I've gone. Like even when I wasn't collecting everything and I was like, my life was like a blur. If I was like quickly moving apartments, somehow this one little thing that I got of Strawberry, this like signed card that was framed with this like little plaque. I bet you it's worth nothing, no disrespect to Straw, but I will not let go of that. So like that stuff to me is like the exciting, because it just has such a connection to me.
Before we let you go, thanks for your time, but you know, you're real good buddy, KD. He's not afraid to, fire some off.
Yeah.
Is there a tweet or a number of tweets, because he's not afraid to do that you received a call and was like, yo, what's up with your boy?
There was a time in 2016 where I said to him, I remember, I didn't really care, but I think it was at this like point where, you couldn't tell yet if it was gonna have real life implications. Like the way people acted on social media, there was still this like time period where people were like, you cannot say that, right? And now you think about today, right? Like, sadly, it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. No filter.
So he almost knew that, I think, because there was a time where we had a conversation, and I did say to him, like, yo, man, why are you writing these things? Like, this is how it looks, whatever. And he pushed back in a way that like really made me just stand down for life, which was just kind of like, why? Like the most simple ways, like, why do you think that? And I started explaining it. And the more I explained my rationale for why I thought that, I was like, why? This sounds stupid. Like, this is Twitter. Like, what are we talking about? Right. And then as I kind of fell back a little bit, I realized that it ultimately was this like incredible part of his brain that he needed to exercise on Twitter that really was witty. And it was within the confines of like, he didn't go too far any which way. It was this incredible banter. And every time, even when someone would say like, how are you going to get snap at a 12-year-old kid? And then I would say to him, like, I would ask him, and then his response would be so funny that I'd be like, yo, honestly, it's incredible. Like, in a weird way, it's incredible. Like, I actually do think I get what you're trying to do here.
Right.
And I think that as time went on, I realized it was just such like a fun part of who he was. He understood the line that he never wants to cross. And that's his own line. I don't even know where the line is, but it's his.
Gotcha.
The only time I'll ever say anything is like when I feel like there's a bigger strategy in my mind that I want him to know before he does it the next time. So like if they ask him how he feels about the All-Star game and he says, man, this is stupid. I hate this new format. Like, it's garbage. The league's wild.
It was trash.
Right?
It was trash.
I'll say to him like, yo, I'll never be like, you shouldn't say that. Those things never come out of my mouth.
Right.
Never. I'll never talk to him like that. Like, he's a grown, that makes no sense. So I'm never going to say to him like, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. I'll never talk like that. But I said to him like, bro, Adam called me and I didn't call him back yet. And I already know why he's calling me. Like, you're one of the leaders of the game. You're on the All-Star game. And he'll be like, it is stupid. And I'll be like, I hear you, but let me just frame it to you like this. We may want to buy a team one day.
Right.
That's it. And he'll be like, I feel you. I got you. I got you. I got you. And that would be it. And that would be like the end of the conversation. But it doesn't mean he probably won't say it again. But he's just, he knows where I'm coming from. That's the only time. It's a whole other world. It's like
it really is.
It's a different world. It's a different world.
It's nothing to do with nothing. Just
if he spoke like that in real life to people, that'd be,
right.
But it's the whole other world. And it's funny. And honestly, he'll go down as almost like the king of this era of how to snap back and talk to people on NBA Twitter.
Yeah, that boy crazy.
And the more people say to him, like, bro, you too old. Like, you 37 years old on Twitter. I'm like, he's gonna be 67 years old on
Twitter. He'll be on there snapping on folks. So, Rich, as we come to a close, we got one last thing I want to talk to you about, and just kind of get a little more input into the members club at Boardroom. How are you guys planning on taking this initiative and kind of the future plans of that? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Is there a sign-up sheet?
Yeah.
All right. We'll take ours official.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Right.
We'll
you heard
take
it
ours
first,
official.
right on the 611. Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard.
Yep.
We're signing up.
Where's the sheet?
Where's the sheet, Rich?
Where's the sheet? Yeah.
Wait, okay. There's a fee, so I'm holding I'm holding the two of you to that right there. Well, here's the thing. You know how, like, in the beginning of the convo, I talked about the idea that I grew up in New York and the idea that I found myself in whatever room I wanted to be in, and that I had the gall to belong in those rooms in my mind and to create those connections and those relationships. But that's easier said than done. And as we've grown our business and focused around media and focused around experience, there was always this kind of like boardroom consumer that I realized really was attracted to the brand because of this like relatability or this idea that like I had taken this unconventional path to be able to get to where I am and somehow utilize this like set of experiences to ultimately be where I'm at now. So the idea was basically like, well, if there are people that are gravitating towards our brand and understanding my story and understanding what it is that we're trying to do, and they want to be a part of this, well, then maybe I need to build a community that almost gives them the access that's right in front of them, and the tools and the conversations and the people around them to inspire them to say, all right, cool. Now, like, yes, I paid, right? Like, this isn't charity. Like, I paid and I'm in this community, but I'm really in it. So like all these membership clubs that open all over New York, these hospitality venues are incredible, but you're not truly going in there and leaving with this community of people. You go with the friends that you go with, or you run into the people that you see all the time. The idea for this was, let's build a community where we're all going to help each other. We're all going to lean on each other. If you want to meet Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins, like, they'll probably be in the room one day. And if you want to talk to them about what it was like to be a professional athlete and build a career off the field, well, they're right here in front of you. And if you have the ability to connect with them, then you can connect with them and share information, and now they're in your network. And I really believe that, like, my greatest currency has always been just compounding on my network and being able to, like, build relationship to relationship to relationship. So to be able to create this community around us where, like, we have people in their 20s, we have people in their 60s, we have 60% men, 40% women. I was worried we were going to have just like 100 dudes in the membership club. And it's a great mix of people, and people are going to be able to really build this that can be of value to the rest of their business. And then for me, selfishly, is it becomes a great, like, focus group almost for, like, what we should keep doing. So if someone comes up to me and says, man, I love this interview you did with Spike Lee, I'm like, all right, cool. So our audience is starting to like some of this stuff that we do outside the box in the film world. So it's been exciting and incredibly rewarding, because not only are people paying for it, which is like always a great feeling, right? When you create any product and someone pays for it, it's like an incredible feeling of like, damn, like, they value what I've built. But also, like, people are eager. Like, there's people really eager in there to meet one another. They've got business ideas. We did a live panel last week with Vino from CAA and David Blitzer from Blackstone. Everybody was raising hands, asking questions, and speaking to them afterwards. And to me, listen, I made sure that was a part of my life as a kid. But to most people, that is impossible to get in those rooms and to be able to have the ability to ask those questions. So I'm just trying to foster this whole world where if you want in it, and you want to be able to commit to, like, showing up and being curious and being eager and, like, putting your attitude at the door, there's going to be real opportunity for you in this. You go to boardroom.tv to the website, and there's a tab for members club, and you sign up, and there's like a little bit of an onboarding. And the onboarding is more about, like, are you like-minded, right? It's like, if you're in there, and it doesn't really matter what industry you're in as much as, like, what is your intention, right? Like, if your intention is like, I'm in here because I'm trying to raise this amount of money by next Friday, right? Like, that might not be the right thing.
Right.
But if your intention is on par with the way their community is being built, then you'll be in. And honestly, we have, you know, a woman in her early 60s, and we have dudes that are like 1-2 years out of college. Like, I keep saying it's like old school. It's like the movie Old School. It's like, it's just this like medley of people, but they all like with each other, and it's cool.
What's up.
Rich, thank you for your time, man.
Sir.
This has been a blessing.
Thank you, guys.
To hear your story, how it all evolved, and hopefully it's inspiring to the next Rich Kleiman out there that's looking at you but didn't know how, giving us some insight on the how, and obviously providing opportunity. So 611, Ryan Howard, Rich Kleiman, Jimmy Rollins, we appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you guys, man.
Yes, sir.
I didn't think I'd ever be able to sit with two Phillies like this for this long, man.